My name is Walter Alarkon. I'm a senior associate at Orrick, Herrington Sutcliffe. In 2021, I was one of Orrick's inaugural Racial Justice Fellows, which was a program started by the firm as a show of our support for the Black Lives Matter movement. As part of that program, I served as full-time in-house legal counsel for nonprofit corporation Common Future, which is an impact finance organization that seeks to reduce economic and racial inequality and rebuild our economy in a sustainable way. What is the name of our project? The name is character-based lending. The problem we are trying to solve is how do you deploy capital to entrepreneurs in underserved communities, particularly Black and Indigenous communities of color? We all know the structural challenges that BIPOC entrepreneurs face in obtaining capital through traditional finance mechanisms. They tend to rely on criteria such as credit scores, which are not racially neutral. A Consumer Finance Protection Bureau report found that poor Black and Latinx consumers were more likely than white consumers to have no or little credit history that precludes them from obtaining FICO scores, which are often necessary to obtain capital. An Urban Institute report from last year found that majority Black, Hispanic, and Native American communities have 1.5 times the amount of subprime credit scores, debt collections, and high-cost non-bank borrowing than majority white communities. Given that much of the traditional lending infrastructure relies on credit scores and other tools that put BIPOC borrowers at a disadvantage, character-based lending looked to find ways to get capital to worthy applicants. What was the solution this project created? The solution is in the name, character-based lending. This is an $800,000 fund that seeks to turn the lending process on its head. CBL, as we call it, allows those closest to potential BIPOC entrepreneurs make credit decisions in a way that fully accounts for a borrower's creditworthiness. Essentially, Common Future, through the CBL Fund, is working with economic-minded nonprofits on the ground in 3 specific communities: Minneapolis, Cincinnati, and indigenous communities in Arizona and New Mexico, to help set specific lending criteria for borrowers in their respective areas. Such criteria includes developing a sustainable business plan, a healthy balance sheet evidenced by revenue generation for a certain amount of time plus little or no existing debt, and a track record of engagement with the nonprofit in that community and others in that community. Those applicants who meet such criteria are eligible for loans at low interest rates of 1 to 3%. And this is made possible through a hybrid of patient capital. This $800,000 fund is capitalized through loans from individual investors, a loan from another foundation that's forgivable upon achievement of the deployment of a certain amount of capital, and from straight grants. What was the lawyer's role in advancing this solution? The lawyer's roles were structuring the fund, negotiating with various counterparties, both at the top of the structure, i.e. the capital, with nonprofits who would be developing the lending criteria, and with service providers who would be working with Common Future to administer the fund. I served as in-house transactional counsel, while Orrick provided external counsel, including specialist review on tax, securities, and general corporate issues. Our main role, though, was really to serve as quarterback to help Common Future implement its vision. We walked lockstep with Common Future's capital strategies and finance team, led by Eric Horvath and CEO Rodney Foxworth, to reach agreements on, first, the commercial terms, and then on legal documents with all of the parties. While we, like all law firms, are familiar with working with experienced parties with counsel, here we had to work with such parties and also with nonprofits who represented communities who had a rightful skepticism of traditional finance structures. Elaine Rasmussen, who leads Connect Up, an organization that works with BIPOC entrepreneurs in Minneapolis, and Elaine also is a prior fellow in the Boston Impact Initiative, and thus she's no stranger to impact finance. She told us that she's tried to obtain capital for her Minneapolis entrepreneur partners before, but that she or the entrepreneurs often lacked infrastructure, needed to make loan applications and secure capital in a sustainable way. So to overcome the skepticism of the traditional finance structures, Common Future and Orrick allowed the 3 nonprofit partners to take the lead in developing a collaborative bottom-up process. Instead of just developing drafts based on legal templates, we first had all hands calls with each of the nonprofits to hear what sort of criteria and process would work for them. Developing this buy-in was key, particularly from those in these communities whom we sought to support. By letting the nonprofits develop the fund from the start, we feel like we've achieved such buy-in, and we think the numbers bear that out. Borrowers who met the criteria of 2 of the nonprofits have now received more than a third of the $800,000 fund, the capital for which was secured last summer. The borrowers include Native women-led businesses providing telehealth services and another business producing cosmetics. So the money's going out the door. Our nonprofit partners have already said that being involved in the process from the start has given them and the entrepreneurs they work with the confidence that the money will actually be there if they engage with the fund. It has helped reduce some of the hurdles to achieving capital, which is exactly why Common Future has started this fund. When did the lawyers get involved? The lawyers got involved at the start of 2021 when there was essentially just a term sheet agreed upon by the 3 nonprofit partners in Common Future, but not much more. At that time, there was no structure set, there was no financing vehicle. This is Common Future's first lending fund, so the notion of creating an SPV or any subsidiary was new to them. And none of the non-grant funding was yet committed. As such, myself and Orrick were involved in developing the corporate structure, all of the documentation, and giving comfort to all the parties so we could get to a yes. What are the areas of legal expertise that were involved? There was tax, there was corporate, nonprofit law, securities, but really the legal expertise was helping Common Future get to closing the deal. I work in renewable energy project finance and M&A. My colleagues I was working most closely with, Teicher and Quinn focus on impact finance. We all know it takes a gaggle of specialists and generalists to get to any deal closing. Here, because of the partners we were working with, this was a first for many of them. The real legal expertise here was getting people on board with the venture and believing this could be a reality. Eric Horvath and Rodney Foxworth at Common Future spoke at length about attending many nonprofit finance conferences where there are great ideas spoken of, but often not followed up on. Here, I feel our role was enabling Common Future and their partners to follow up on and achieve something that is really tangible, getting capital deployed to underserved BIPOC communities in a new way that hopefully develops confidence that more support is coming. Thanks.